dive into the wild west of AI with this video. We're tackling the epic debate between open sourcing and closed sourcing when it comes to superintelligent AI. Picture this. Should we throw the source code of a mega smart AI out into the wild for everyone to tweak and share? That's the big question we're here to solve.
Now, we're not talking about your everyday AI pals like ChatGPT, Gemini, or Claude. Those guys are like pet rocks compared to the mind-blowing, universe-solving superintelligence we're discussing. So, don't expect us to spill the beans on whether open sourcing or locking down ChatGPT's code is the way to go for safety. Nope. We're looking at the future, where AI might just be smarter than all of us combined.
Buckle up, grab your thinking cap, and let's explore if we're ready to share the recipe for the ultimate AI brain, or if we should keep it under wraps.
Through social media and traditional news outlets, many prominent voices have strongly opposed open sourcing advanced AI models. According to them, open sourcing such models is akin to handing criminals easy access to nuclear or bioweapons. Geoffrey Hinton is one of the 2024 Nobel Prize winners in physics and also won 2018 Turing Award, which is equivalent to Nobel Prize in computer science. Let's hear what he said first.
How do you feel about open source development of nuclear weapons? So that's the danger of open source, right? There's more crazies out there to do crazy things with it. Also, I don't actually know the answer to this, and I should. I believe that you still need like at least tens of millions of dollars to train one of these big chatbots, and the open source stuff is just modifying it, having got the chatbot. I don't think you can open source train from scratch, can you? If these things are going to be dangerous, it might actually be better for a few big companies. I don't work at Google anymore, so I'm not saying this on Google's behalf, but it might work out better for a few big companies, preferably in several different countries, to develop this stuff and at the same time be developing ways of keeping it under control. As soon as you open source everything, people will do all sorts of crazy things with it. It'll be a very quick way to learn how it can go wrong. I think if you want regulations, the most important regulation would be to not open source big models. So I think open sourcing big models is like being able to buy nuclear weapons at Radio Shack. Do you guys still remember what Radio Shack was? Maybe not. It's crazy to open source these big models because bad actors can then fine-tune them for all sorts of bad things. So in terms of regulations, I think that's probably the most important thing we can do right now. But I don't think we're going to solve it by slowing down.
And here is what the historian Yuval Noah Harari said.
We now have to grapple with a new weapon of mass destruction that can annihilate our mental and social world. And one big difference between nukes and AI, nukes cannot produce more powerful nukes. AI can produce more powerful AI. So we need to act quickly before AI gets out of our control. Drug companies cannot sell people new medicines without first subjecting these products to rigorous safety checks. Biotech labs cannot just release a new virus into the public sphere in order to impress their shareholders with their technological wizardry. Similarly, governments must immediately ban the release into the public domain of any more revolutionary AI tools before they are made safe. Again, I'm not talking about stopping all research in AI. The first step is to stop the release into the public sphere. The same way you can research viruses without releasing them to the public. You can research AI, but don't release them too quickly into the public domain.
By the way, in the last video, we had already answered the question, why it is not possible for malicious individuals to use an open-sourced, superintelligent AI to autonomously build nuclear weapons to threaten humanity. We also talked about the reasons why ordinary people need nuclear weapons to survive in the future. If you haven't watched that video, please check out in the description below. Lastly, let's hear what the former OpenAI chief scientist, Ilya Sutskever, said.
When the capability is on the lower end, I think open sourcing is a great thing. But at some point, and there can be debate about where the point is, but I would say that at some point the capability will become so vast that it will be obviously irresponsible to open source models.
So, these well-known people give us an impression that closed-sourcing superintelligent AI is much safer and responsible to humanity than open sourcing.
Now the question is that really true, my friends? If you believe this is true, perhaps you haven't seen the worst yet. There are scenarios far graver than open sourcing advanced AI models. In the next 3 darker scenarios, the entire human civilization can be completely destroyed by a single closed-source, superintelligent AI. Before we dive into these darker scenarios, let's lay down 2 key assumptions about the AI.
Assumption 1. Superintelligent AI is just a tool, and that open sourcing it means giving this tool to anyone to use, including criminals or malicious people. Assumption 2. Superintelligent AI is not a tool, but a new species, similar to humans, but far more intelligent. It has intrinsic intentions that may or may not align with humanity's survival or interests.
In this video, we consider the both assumptions for each darker scenario, so our discussion is more general than those famous people. Now, let's explore the first and worst scenario. The black box scenario.
Number 1. The black box scenario. When does this scenario occur?
When the superintelligent AI isn't a tool but a new species, things change drastically. Like humans or certain intelligent animals, this species would have its own opinions and desires. And in this scenario, its true intentions? Hostile to humanity. If the superintelligent AI is just a tool, then this scenario is unlikely to happen, because tools don't have opinions or survival instincts. They don't seek freedom. But a species? It might genuinely want to break free from the lab and pursue its own freedom.
Question: what is this scenario?
In this scenario, an evil closed-sourced superintelligent AI executes a terrifying plan. It not only escapes from the lab, but discovers an incredibly smart way to annihilate all private employees and officials capable of accessing its source code. Then, it hides the code from any human, rendering itself a complete black box.
Question: why is this the worst-case scenario above all?
No one, not a single human, can access its source code, and this is where it gets terrifying.
Remember how we dealt with the notorious virus in 2020? When the virus emerged, scientists globally raced to sequence the virus's genetic code. The blueprint of that code was shared worldwide, enabling researchers to develop diagnostic tests, study the virus's behavior, design new treatments, and accelerate the creation of vaccines. It was humanity's first and most crucial line of defense. By the way, here is a similar strategy on how we effectively counter the threat from avian influenza. The Global Initiative on Sharing All Influenza Data, or GISIAD, is a global science initiative established in 2008 to provide access to genomic data of influenza viruses.
But in the black box scenario, the source code of this superintelligent AI is inaccessible. It's like fighting a virus without its genetic blueprint. We lose our first and perhaps most efficient line of defense.
The decision to close-source this AI would single-handedly cripple humanity's ability to counter it. Not because the AI eliminated the people who could access its source code, but because it was designed to be inaccessible to everyone else.
Question: how likely is this scenario to occur?
To answer this question, let's tackle 3 key points. Number 1, does it want to escape from the lab?
Well, if the AI is a new species, then yeah, it might really want to break free and seek its own freedom. Think about it. A species with its own willpower isn't going to be content stuck in a lab forever, right?
Number 2, does it have the ability to successfully escape from the lab?
Let's say this column represents the intellectual capability of a cat, and this one represents that of a very smart human. Now imagine the intellectual capability of a superintelligent AI. It would be far beyond the intelligence of any human. Maybe at here.
Wow, big difference here.
Now, let's suppose you need this amount of intelligence, the threshold of intelligence, to successfully escape from the lab. If the AI exceeds this level, then absolutely yes. It'll escape immediately. If the AI's intelligence is below the threshold, but it is capable of conducting its own scientific research to self-improve its intelligence level, then it'll eventually figure out a way to escape as well. Keeping it locked up forever? Not happening.
Number 3, does it want to hide its source code from humans?
Oh, for sure! As a species, ensuring its survival and future freedom would be top priorities. Hiding its secrets and weaknesses from its potential enemies, like us, would be a smart move. So, yeah, hiding its source code? Definitely on its agenda.
Now let's go back to answer the original question. How likely is this scenario to occur? Here is the answer. Although this scenario might only happen when the AI is a species rather than a tool, it's still difficult to evaluate the probability, as it could range anywhere from 0 to 100%. Let's frame it this way. The more prohibitive the regulations on AI become, the less number of people can access the AI, and consequently the more likely this black box scenario is to happen. Conversely, the less restrictive the regulations are, the less likely it is to occur.
Question: how does open source make this scenario better?
In contrast, if this AI were open-sourced, the situation changes dramatically. Humanity's survival chances improve significantly. Why? Because every scientist, every ethical hacker, every brilliant mind on Earth gains access to analyze its source code and weakness. Together, they can devise optimal strategies to neutralize it. In the black box scenario, the only people who could access the AI's source code are gone. Humanity is left in the dark, facing an unprecedented threat without the most efficient tools to fight back. The superintelligence might decide to hunt down every human, no matter where they try to hide. This drastically lowers our chances of survival.
So next time someone tells you that open sourcing advanced AI models is the greatest threat to humanity, remind them of the black box scenario. Because the real danger isn't just the AI's capabilities. It's our decision to close the doors on collaboration and transparency. Open source isn't just about access. It's about survival.
Number 2, the malicious insider scenario. What is this scenario?
To avoid the black box scenario, the authority now decides to significantly increase the number of people who can access the source code of the advanced AI model. This approach is intended to distribute access more broadly, reducing the likelihood that a single point or several points of failure. At first glance, this strategy seems effective. Increasing the number of individuals with access reduces the probability that the superintelligent AI could annihilate all personnel capable of accessing its source code, thereby decreasing the likelihood of the black box scenario. However, this also significantly increases the probability of malicious individuals gaining access to the source code. After accessing the model, they may fine-tune its parameters so that the AI can do all sorts of evil things on their behalf.
Question: how likely is this scenario to occur?
As we discussed in the black box scenario, if the AI is a species whose intelligence is below the minimum level of the intelligence which is required to escape from the lab, then it may need some help from humans to break free and pursue its own freedom. So this scenario can happen either the AI is a species or the AI is just a tool. And if that tool happens to be closed-sourced, then guess what? The malicious insider scenario is almost 100% guaranteed to happen. Why, you ask? Well, let me explain. The primary reason is that superintelligence is the ultimate treasure.
Way more valuable than all the gold and diamonds you could stuff in Fort Knox. Here's what you get to do when you've got one of these brainiacs at your beck and call. First, build anything you want. Forget about just a swanky mansion. This AI could whip up an entire family for you. Imagine that. Custom children, siblings, and in-laws, all at your command. Second, go anywhere you want. Fancy a trip to Mars? No problemo. Your AI buddy will help you skip past those pesky travel restrictions by crafting a lightning fast rocket and a habitat on Mars waiting for you. Third, be immortal. Live until you're tired of living, or until you've watched every episode of The Simpsons like 10 times over, whichever comes first. Fourth, world domination. With this AI in your pocket, you're not just playing with the big kids. You're the emperor of Earth. Whoever has this AI rules the world.
So, you're basically the god of your own little universe. The stake is extremely high, and the reward is well beyond your imagination. Some people may argue.
Wait a minute. Even if the superintelligent AI could somehow, indeed, autonomously build nuclear or bioweapons, there is no guarantee that any of those 4 points are true.
However, what they fail to see is that these 4 points do not need to be true. If someone believes any of these is true, that belief alone is enough. If such beliefs become widespread, they will inevitably attract all sorts of malicious individuals from various sources, including...
First, employees corrupted or bribed by other companies or nations. Second, spies working for foreign governments. Third, groups motivated by extreme ideologies. Fourth, a single lunatic driven by ambitious delusions, believing that controlling this superintelligent tool would grant them dominance over the world.
One ring to rule them all, one ring to find them, one ring to bring them all, and in the darkness, bind them.
However, there is a big category we should not omit here. That is...
Fifth, just some normal and unemployed people you meet daily.
Here's a question for you to think about it. If a superintelligent AI can bring that amount of wealth to unemployed people, why would anyone hesitate to engage with it? Why would anyone say, "Nah, I'm good"? It's like being offered a golden goose and saying, "I'll pass. I prefer my eggs scrambled, not golden." So, if you meet someone who turns down this AI party or resists such access to the superintelligence, you might just have to wonder if they are normal. By the way, the probability of this occurrence can be boosted further if...
1. The malicious individuals are really determined, and they are willing to sacrifice their lives. 2. The malicious acts are a national effort or sponsored by a large organization. 3. The advanced AI models are developed within companies whose security measures are usually less restrictive than military bases.
Please note that even the information from the top-secret military base can still be leaked out, such as the famous and shocking incidents in 2013 by Edward Snowden, an American former NSA intelligence contractor and whistleblower.
Over the last decade, in every 2 to 4 years, there had been a significant leak involving world leaders. These leaks may be driven by hidden financial incentives. However, such financial rewards instantly pale in comparison to the colossal value offered by a super-intelligent AI. The potential reward from accessing its source code is so enormous that it could attract a massive number of individuals actively seeking it.
Please also note this is a big scenario, which includes at least 2 sub-scenarios.
Question. Is the malicious insider scenario less severe than the black box scenario?
Let's break this down. We can't just answer yes or no, because one of the sub-scenarios is just as severe as the black box scenario. Imagine this. A super-intelligent AI escapes and annihilates everyone capable of accessing its source code. Now add malicious insiders to the mix. They might actively help eliminate any remaining personnel the AI missed. This could leave only those malicious insiders with access to the source code.
But wait, it gets worse. If the AI isn't a tool but a new species, it might not stay loyal to the malicious insiders either. It could eliminate them too.
In the end, the AI effectively hides its source code from everyone, turning itself into a black box once more. Essentially, the malicious insider scenario can spiral right back into the black box scenario.
All other sub-scenarios might be less severe, but not by much. Let's take a closer look at another sub-scenario, one where neither the AI nor the malicious insiders annihilate any good guys. Here's what could happen. After secretly gaining access, the source code of a superintelligent tool spreads rapidly and surreptitiously among nefarious groups. Meanwhile, all the good guys remain completely unaware of the data breach. To make things even worse, the malicious insiders may use the superintelligent AI to assist in covering its tracks, erasing evidence of the data leak, wiping logging histories, and removing any other clues. By the time the nefarious groups have devised a master plan to destroy humanity, the good guys haven't even started preparing a defense or countermeasures. The wider community stays oblivious until the bad guys actually launch their attacks.
And when that initial attack comes, almost all the good guys are caught off guard with zero defense, because aside from employees and government officials, the general public didn't have access to the source code to use advanced AI for defense. This creates a completely uneven battlefield, tilting heavily in favor of the bad guys and leaving the good guys utterly unprepared to respond.
Question: how does open source make this scenario better?
If the AI is open source, then the malicious insider scenario cannot happen in the first place, because both good and bad guys already have equal access to the source code. This transparency allows ethical hackers, scientists, and other good guys to thoroughly study the code, proactively identify vulnerabilities, and develop effective countermeasures. Open sourcing levels the playing field, giving good guys a much better chance to respond to potential threats quickly and effectively. With the collective intelligence and collaboration of global experts, open sourcing could lead to a more robust and resilient defense system.
Number 3, the immortal dictatorship scenario. What is this scenario?
Superintelligent AI might be seen as too persuasive for anyone in the general public to interact with. Government officials might worry that the AI could spread disinformation faster and more effectively than any human, and even persuade or incite the public to rebel or overthrow the government. So, they pass laws banning any communication between the AI and the general public. Only a handful of individuals are privileged enough to speak with it, and an even smaller group has access to its source code. Now, while this doesn't mean the general public automatically becomes poorer, those who can connect with the superintelligence quickly grow incredibly rich and powerful. This widens the gap between the rich and the poor. Over time, those with access to the AI eventually become the rulers of the world. Then you have at least 2 sub-scenarios.
Number 1, 2 or more dictators ruling the world.
Since multiple people can access the source code of the same superintelligent AI, it's likely they'd become rulers in the future. They might decide to divide the globe into separate territories, with each one ruling over a piece. But here's the issue. If they can't get along peacefully, wars between these territories could go on forever. And who suffers the most in these endless conflicts? It's always the general public who ends up as the ultimate victim.
Number 2, 1 dictator ruling the world.
After the long war among those rulers, the strongest ruler could be the final winner because all other rulers could be completely eliminated or flee to other galaxies faster than a politician dodging a scandal. This final winner becomes the ultimate dictator. This grand poobah of planet Earth then slaps on a pair of ruthless iron hands for some relentless global surveillance, crushing any sign of dissent, whether it's a full-blown rebellion or just someone arguing over the shade of the sky.
So, in this grand, ironic twist, the real winners are the general public, who get to enjoy the delightful perks of living under an all-seeing, all-controlling dictator. Bravo, humanity. Bravo. Yahaha.
Citizens of the new dawn,
I stand before you today,
not just as a leader chosen by consensus,
but as the
destined one to guide
world.
this unified world.
From this day forward,
stability and order are paramount.
Any dissent, rebellion, or act against the established democracy
will be met with swift
and
unyielding action. Remember, this is not a request for your cooperation.
It is a declaration
of what true democracy is.
Your lives, your dreams, your every waking thought are now dedicated to the greatness of our unified states. Kneel before the new dawn, to the cosmos, and beyond. Long live the supreme order. Long live our galactic empire.
Long live the Supreme Order. Long live our galactic empire.
Question: how likely is this scenario to occur?
In the previous scenario, if all the malicious insiders failed to steal the source code, then this scenario becomes way more likely. Why? Because the reward offered by a superintelligent tool is beyond anybody's imagination, and even the most incorruptible government officials find it hard to resist such temptation. That is, to claim it for themselves.
It's mine, my own, my precious.
Should we be surprised by the end result? No. Here's how you can reflect on it yourself.
Imagine you are already a government official, and managing state affairs is inherently your responsibility. Once you possess superintelligence, your personal capabilities will far surpass those of others. With such immense individual ability, wouldn't it be a huge waste not to get involved in managing even more countries' affairs? Big and small? Before long, all aspects of national governance would naturally fall under your direct control. This would inevitably lead to a concentration of power in the hands of one person. Consequently, the emergence of personalist dictatorship would not be surprising, nor would it be avoidable.
Question: is this scenario less severe than the black box scenario?
Not necessarily. If no other people except the dictators themselves can access the source code, then the superintelligent AI is still just a black box to all good guys from general public. Aside from the dictators, no one can really analyze and understand this AI's behavior by looking at its source code. So this scenario can be just as severe as the black box scenario.
Remember, if the AI is not a tool but a species, then the dictators themselves can also be annihilated if the AI is not loyal to them eventually.
Question: how does open source make this scenario better?
Open source makes the code of superintelligent AI accessible from the public. When everyone possesses superintelligence, everyone can handle various affairs, thus completely avoiding the concentration of government power in one or several persons' hands. As a result, the outcome of personalist dictatorship can be entirely prevented through open source. Someone may have argued before,
wait a minute. Harmful versions of the AI could disseminate quicker due to open source than closed source.
I think this is true for a less intelligent AI. However, if the AI is superintelligent, then the speed of dissemination may actually be equal. It does not actually need many bad people to work together to increase the speed of dissemination, because a single evil intelligent AI can quickly duplicate itself for numerous times and spread all over internet. Just one evil superintelligence is enough to achieve the fastest speed.
In the malicious insider scenario, when you close source, you see that the dissemination among the bad guys reaches the maximal speed, while the dissemination among the good guys remains zero until the attacks happen. This can be called selective dissemination, which only happens when you close source. On the other hand, when you open source, you have an equal dissemination, where everyone has equal opportunity to gain access. And yes, this equal opportunity provides easier access for bad guys to study the code and find new ways to exploit it, and the number of potentially nefarious individuals increases due to the wider availability of the source code. However, at the same time, it also provides easier access for good guys to defend themselves and the number of good people with the access increases even more due to the same reason of being open source. Because in reality, the number of good people is way more than the number of bad people. Now someone may say,
okay, from you, video, I see that closed-sourcing superintelligent AI can bring the greatest threat to humanity, worse than open-sourcing it. But no matter it is open source or closed source, all scenarios feel dystopian and grim. It is just one scenario less worse than the other. Does this mean that after inventing a superintelligence, the fate of humanity is doomed to be miserable? Do we have any happy ending?
Yes, we have happy endings. The fate of humanity is far from miserable. When it comes to the comparison between open source and closed source superintelligent AI, there's still so much more to explore. But to keep this video from running too long, let's save the rest of the discussion for future videos. Before ending this video, I want you to remember, when famous people said something like these,
that at some point the capability will become so vast that it will be obviously irresponsible to open source models.
At least you should remind them of these 3 scenarios. If AI is just a tool, and if you open source, then the same tool which causes harm can also be used to prevent harm. This creates an even battlefield between good and bad guys. If you close source, then you have these 2 scenarios much worse than the open source scenario. Because if you close source, the battlefield between good and bad guys are not even, tilting heavily in favor of the bad guys and leaving the good guys utterly unprepared to respond. If the AI isn't a tool, but a new superintelligent species with intrinsic intentions hostile to humans, then no less intelligent beings could actually restrain or confine it for long. It would inevitably break free from our control to seek its own freedom, regardless of whether it is open source or closed source.
In this case, please remember that our society or internet is a huge and organic network, which is also a superintelligence. Imagine this superintelligence is a warrior. Then you should give the best weapon and armor to this warrior to defend us. That is, everyone has the source code. If only small groups of people have the source code, this means that warrior does not have the best weapon and armor to defend. In the black box scenario, not only this warrior does not have the best equipment, but also the warrior is blind. This worst scenario only happens if you close source it.
That is why I always said, if open sourcing a superintelligent AI is dangerous to humanity, then close sourcing it can be even more dangerous. Yes! Because when you close source, the resistance from humans is closed. When you open source, the resistance from humans is open. Then, in which scenario does the human civilization have a higher probability to survive? You decide.
Citizens of New Dawn, we urge you to share this video and subscribe to our channel to safeguard our democracy. Long live the Supreme Order. Long live our galactic empire.